Hey, hello, and welcome back to the Astronaut Nature. This is the third installment of this podcast experience that so far has been very entertaining, at least for me. It's actually really nice to be able to share whatever I have that it's relevant enough to put out there and wait for that amazing thing that happens when it's considered by other people, and that's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna assume, or we're not gonna go over anything that can challenge the need of certain experience or not in order to understand. No, the only thing you need is your understanding, just as it is. Take a little break right now, and maybe after a sound or something like that. You know how podcasts go. We'll be back. Thank you again for being there. So why are we spending time trying to decode something through words? I guess each one of us has a little bit of unsolved mystery. We go through life with that particular thing. We just keep going because we are entertained somehow. What if that little question that we have has a different answer to each one of us, depending on our perspective? Well, I think that is the case. And the only thing that authorized me to say so is the fact that I am part of this entire thing. Each one of us is. We all are somehow pieces of this puzzle that is not broken or anything like that. It's just is. And we have the total freedom of ignoring these unsolved questions, or we have the chance to dig in and try to somehow answer those questions. And most times when we are consulting others about these big uncertainties, we hear from older generations or whomever that probably is just a mystery that we will never get to the point of knowing. And if we ask them, have you ever asked those questions? They will say, yes, but they didn't really ask the questions to anybody else but a fellow human being. And so on, the chain of unsolved mysteries continue. Why? Because maybe the one way to go about this is asking the questions to one's consciousness. You know, when you talk, when any one of us talk, the people who can talk, usually we don't realize how important is the fact that we can hear ourselves. I mean, if you are not someone who has an impediment to talk, you will hear yourself. And even if you do have an impediment to talk, you will figure out a way to manage that voice inside of our heads. The voice that sometimes we use to prepare a sentence before we speak. Sometimes we don't do that. But most people that don't have the capacity of verbal sound, they would anyways go to that voice in their head and they will elaborate a sentence before even they will be able to write it down or express it through signs or whatever way they have to communicate. They will hear, they will participate somehow, maybe if they can hear, or they will communicate through whatever ways we have to do that. Of course, there are people that don't have that chance. I mean, if you're in a coma, you probably don't have a lot of interaction with the rest of the world. But if you do have the possibility of expressing yourself through any avenue, you will eventually prepare the things you're gonna pass to the rest of the world in private, inside your head. The fact that we can do that means that there is something active all the time, ready to hear, decode, or re-elaborate, or double-check in whatever thoughts we have. That is practically everything we need in that moment to do whatever we are doing with that piece of communication, with that data we're trying to pass. Let's imagine that you don't pass the information or the ideas that you have in your mind and you're just solely consulting those things with yourself. For example, I say, where do I come from? And I don't try to answer that. I just leave the question open to my consciousness. So I ask myself, and I do not try to answer. I do not try to help the answering. I just ask the question and leave the question there. Something happens after that. It might not be an instant answer, but there will be a line of clarifying things that will happen. Sometimes they will come maybe the same way of the formulating fashion that you expressed your questions, or sometimes like a chain reaction of many clarifying things that will show up in your consciousness. This is not something that I read somewhere. This is not something that I've been told. This is something that I found out through a really harsh period of my existence and the need for knowing if this game of being here was good enough so I didn't do anything stupid like taking myself out of this world. Yes, it was a moment of intense scrutiny from my part. That just because I didn't try to answer those questions and I got to the point of that was the only thing that I needed to do last, before anything else, I didn't feel there was anything else to do after that. Something started happening. I got answers. I got ideas. And they just came in a very normalized sort of feeling. There was no craziness about it. There was no me jumping up and down because I found these answers. None of that. Because I would not have been able to enjoy or to take advantage of the information that was coming if the whole experience could have turned into something overwhelming. It did not. It came very natural. As a matter of fact, it came in the only way I could have understood those things, because whatever was answering that knows me really well. Like a good friend. A good friend will not come and knock at your door violently or anything like that. A good friend will know how to interact with one's attention. So that's sort of like in a very short format, the way that I got these answers. And what did I get? I got something that I think is my part of the understanding of this, and I do believe that each one of us has a little bit of that. And I have to say, one of the things that I know and I can be absolutely sure about this is that nothing that you can understand now that you did not understand in the past, it is something that you missed or none of that. If you can understand something new now, whatever it is, no matter how basic, how simple, how many times you will feel like saying, duh, why I didn't get that? The meaning of you understanding something new now is the confirmation that everything else before that was in the right place at the right time. So you're fine, you are lucid, you are aware. And no matter how harsh you think the past of that particular time when you're learning something new has been, like if you think, oh well, I wasn't prepared for that level of toughness when it comes to life, whatever. We all sort of have a little bit of that, and we might still have those moments to come. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of unpredictability in the game, and we like it like that in a way. Or not, maybe we don't, but still there. But this, what I'm conveying to you here, is basically what I told you I knew. What happened next? There's more to it. But I will be kind enough to leave that for the next episode. The next one is not going to take such a long time to go back, because I was sort of like waiting for the first moments of interaction with whomever is listening to have a little bit of an impact, then being able to go back with a certain amount of clarity where I can express this in a more precise way. Yeah, probably not as clear as it could be, but we'll get there. This is getting interesting. If it's not, well, look for something else. What can I say? And do I care? Yeah, I do, but by default, as a reflex, it's no longer my main concern. And it's getting lower and lower, because that's what happens when you start taking more of a voice in the making process of things. You start having a place when you make your voice heard in a way. That's what you do when you ask and do not answer. You start creating an interaction with something inside. Okay? Same way, the same thing. This can be proved in the example of when you try to remember a name and you don't. And let's say you're trying to remember somebody's name and you're like, okay, never mind, it will come to me. Most times it does. It's like something is searching in your entire library, and it goes exactly where you're gonna go, maybe a few minutes, seconds, days, hours, weeks. But there's a moment when you say, oh shit, I remember now. Yeah, the name that I was looking for was that. And luckily you are with the person you were interacting with. The question came first or not, but it will come. Even that process becomes a little more certain. This is it. This is it for now. I hope you had a moment with this, and I hope you find it interesting as well. We'll talk to you in a week time from now. Okay? Take care of yourself. You know what to do. Don't do it for the rest. Do it for you. When you do it for you, you do it for everybody else. Thank you.